Hello students, welcome back. Myself Pushpendra Singh, and we are going to start with our lecture, which is the daily current affairs for 27th of February 2021. All right, so these lectures are basically downloaded. You can basically see these lectures basically on the YouTube channel. You can subscribe our YouTube channel on the which is basically named as the Future IS on the YouTube, and you can get the daily current affairs related lectures on the day-to-day basis. And these lectures are basically very useful for those students who are preparing for the civil services examination as well as other government competitive examinations, right? So because you must understand, because you require certain questions to be answered, okay, based on the current affairs. So for that you are also studying or reading the newspapers also. For example, the Hindu or Indian Express, both of these newspapers are equally good, and you can supplement your preparation with the help of our lectures, which are usually published on the YouTube on the day-to-day basis. So you can subscribe our channel on the YouTube Future IS, and you will get the daily update related to the lectures. Okay, so let's begin with the lecture for 27th of February 2021. Okay, so first is basically the Kaveri, the Kaveri link, right? Kaveri link scheme, which is also known as the Kaveri Velaru, right? Bagai Gundur link scheme, okay, which is a link scheme, which is basically the sharing of the water related to the Kaveri river, okay. So the Kaveri river, which is a disputed river, as you know, okay, and it is basically the sharing of the water between Karnataka and the Tamil Nadu. So Tamil Nadu is basically, lying in the upstream side. Upstream side means the river basically, flows from the upstream to the downstream. Okay. So the upstream side is that portion of the river which falls right in the originating side of the river. Okay, where the river will have their source, and the downstream side is basically all sort of the area which is covered, towards the end of the river, towards the end of the river, okay, or which is also called the mouth of the river. So for example, if you want to see any course of the river, so if I want to see that river is basically flowing in this direction, okay, so this is basically source. So you would say this is the source of the river, right? And it is basically end of the river. Okay, it is also known as the mouth. It is also known as the mouth of river. It is also known as source of the river. So these areas basically falling are called upstream side. Upstream side. And these areas which are falling basically called the downstream side. The downstream means towards the downstream of river. Okay, now the Kaveri river, which is basically a river which is a disputed river, because the interstate movement of the water carries through this river, which basically crosses the Tamil Nadu and then reaches to the Karnataka also. Now what is happening is that the Kaveri river, which is a disputed river because of the sharing of the water, article 262 of our constitution provides, right, the framework for the adjudication of interstate water river or interstate water dispute. Okay, so under article 262 of the constitution, which provide the adjudication which is related to the interstate water issue. Okay, now if you want to say that the parliament has the power to adjudicate, right, the dispute which is related to the interstate water sharing related problems. Okay, now pursuance of this power, the parliament has passed two statute or two legislative the basically acts. These legislative acts are called, basically first is called the River Basin Act. Okay, the River Basin Act 1956, and the second is called the Interstate Water Dispute Act. The Interstate Water Dispute Act 1956. Both of these laws or both of these acts have been passed by the parliament pursuance of article 262 of the Indian Constitution. Now under River Basin Act 1956, all you know that the parliament has set up, right, the river board. The parliament has set up basically the River Basin Board Act. Okay, it is a full name. So under this, the parliament has set up, or the center has set up the river boards for the development of the river basins. Okay. And under Interstate Water Dispute Act, the center has created the ad hoc tribunals for adjudication of the the problems or the issues related to the water sharing between the states. Now, what is happening is that under Interstate Water Dispute Act, which is the main act which deals with water dispute related problems, right? There is a provision that there should be a proper allocation of the water, okay, in order to utilize the water. If that allocation is not done, okay, the state has no right to utilize that water. That is what is happening. What happens is Tamil Nadu has decided, right, to utilize the surplus water, okay, in the Kaveri basin, right? So Karnataka has said that by utilizing this surplus water, right, by utilizing this surplus water which flows through the Kaveri river is basically illegal, right? Now Karnataka says that the Karnataka will move to the Supreme Court for taking the legal action against Tamil Nadu. And Tamil Nadu has determined to utilize the surplus water which flows in the Kaveri basin, Okay. Now what happens is the decision, right, which is basically related to the laying of a foundation of a link. That link basically, transfer the surplus water from Kaveri to the southern side of Tamil Nadu. Okay. So Tamil Nadu has decided to transfer the surplus water from the Kaveri river to the southern side of, or to the southern region of Tamil Nadu, which is basically causing a problem specifically, right, with the Karnataka region, because Karnataka thinking that this surplus water would have been utilized in some other way rather than transferring this surplus water to the southern region in the Tamil Nadu. So that is what is happening. The Tamil Nadu moved to lay a foundation for the Kaveri Velaru Vegai Guntur link scheme, right? Under this scheme, the surplus water in the Kaveri basin will be transferred to the southern region in the Tamil Nadu region. Okay. Now, the Karnataka says that the Tamil Nadu has no right to utilize that water, right? To utilize the surplus water unless it is allocated. Since Interstate Water Dispute Act, the water has not been allocated. Okay. Since the water have not been allocated, the Tamil Nadu has no right to utilize that water. Okay. So it should be first allocated, then utilization should be taken. Okay, so this is basically the Kaveri Vegai Guntur link, which is basically transferring the excess water from the Kaveri river to the southern portion of Tamil Nadu, All right. Next, the second advance estimates of the national income 2020 and 2021. Okay, so here the estimate related to the national income have been published by the National Statistical Office. Okay, which is an independent office under the Ministry of Stats and Program Implementation. So this National Statistical Office has released the second advance estimate of the national income for the year 2020 and 21. Okay, this estimation of the national income is basically calculated on the base year of 2011 and 12. That means at the constant prices, right? The base year have been chosen by the National Statistic Office is basically 2011 and 12, and the National Statistical Office also calculated, right, the national income also based on the current prices, right? So it has no such base, it is based on the current prices. Okay, so two figures have been quantified or calculated by the National Statistical Office. One is based on the constant price, that is on the basis of the base year 2011 and 12 as the basis of calculation of the national income, and the second is basically based on the current prices. Now what is happening is that the growth of the GDP, right, during 2020 and 21 as per estimated, right, by the National Statistical Office is -8%. So you can see that it was in the negative, it was in -8%. If you see that figure in 2019-20 before pandemic, it was 4%. Now due to the contraction, due to sudden downturn in the world economies, including the Indian economies, now this GDP growth of the GDP is -8%, which have been achieved in 2020-21. Okay, now that is right. Now GDP as the current prices means on the current prices, you see in the year 2020-21 it is growth, the estimated growth rate of the GDP is -3.8%. Okay, so you see based on the current price it was -3.8%, and based on, right, at the constant price, that to taken on the base of, right, that to be taken on the basis of the year 2011-12, it was -8%. Okay, if you want to that data was also quantified by the National Statistical Office. The per capita income in the real terms, okay, that was on the basis of 2011 and 12 prices, okay, that is the base year, right? That was during 2020 and 21, that is estimated to around 85,929 rupees per capita. Per capita का मतलब होता है per person. So the per person income was 85,929 rupees. If you want to see the last year figure, that was 2019 and 20, okay, that figure or per capita income on the real term, that is on the basis of the base year 2011-12, for 2019 and 20, it was 94,566 rupees. So you can clearly see that from 94,566 rupees to now it's standing around 85,929. So that means you can say around 9 to 10,000 rupees per capita income have been slashed down or have been decreased within 1 year. So that shows that growth is around minus 9.1 percentage, right? Or the growth rate had declined by 9.1 percentage negatively in 2019 and 20, right? If you compare with 2020 and 21. Okay. Now, if you want to see the per capita income at the current prices, the previous figure was based on the base year prices, right? At the constant prices. Now, if you want to see the current prices or the current year for 2020-21, it was estimated at 1,27,768 rupees. But still, it is showing a decline of 4.8 percentage if you compare this data with 2019 and 20. Okay. The agriculture is the only sector which has shown the positive growth rate, which have shown the positive growth rate. So the agricultural sector has shown the growth of 3% in 2020 and 21, but still the growth rate has been slowed down. For example, if you want to see in 2019 and 20, the agricultural growth rate was 4.3%, which have been declined clearly to 3% in 2020 and 21. So that means the agriculture has also slowed down, but it is achieved the positive growth rate in the agricultural sector. Okay. Then in the manufacturing sector, if you want to calculate, the manufacturing sector contracted by 8.4% during the financial year 2020-21. If you want to compare with the 2019 and 20, right? The electricity is likely to grow by 1.8% according to the data, right? Among the services, that is the trade, hotels, transport, which are projected to contract, right? 18% also. So you see the manufacturing sector contracting, the service sector is contracting. The highest rate of contracting is basically find out in the service sector. Electricity sector is likely to grow, right, at the rate of 1.8%, which is a good sign, but still the growth rate is lesser. Okay. Then the Purnagiri temple. What is this Purnagiri temple? So Purnagiri temple is located first of all in Uttarakhand, in the Uttarakhand state, right, which is basically located, right, in basically Champawat district of Uttarakhand. Okay. So what is happening is that the railway has flagged off a special train, okay, or train that is to connect the Tanakpur, which is located, which is a town in the Uttarakhand state, to Delhi Junction. Okay, it is a special train which was flagged off by the railway minister Piyush Goyal. Okay, the train or the special train will connect the Tanakpur with the national capital region, that is Delhi, right, which will bring, obviously, with that connectivity, the socio-economic development in this region will also be brought, right? The Purnagiri temple or Purnagiri temple is basically known for, for the pilgrimage site, right? So here the temple is there, and this temple is known for the pilgrimage, and that will be benefiting, right, to the people which are basically moving to there, right, for the pilgrimage purpose. So here, this Purnagiri temple is basically located on the Annapurna range, in the Uttarakhand state, right? And here the temple of Purnagiri organizes the Purnagiri Mela also in the Uttarakhand region, specifically on the occasion of Navratri. So the temple, which is located, is 20 kilometers off the Tanakpur, right? The Tanakpur is basically the railway station from the connectivity to the Purnagiri temple. So Tanakpur is located around 20 kilometers away from the Purnagiri temple, but still it is very closer, and the people can basically move out to the Purnagiri temple from the Tanakpur, right? And this temple is located on the right bank of the river Kali in the district of the Champawat district in the Uttarakhand state. Okay. On the Annapurna range, the temple of this Shri Purnagiri basically organizes a mela every year in the Uttarakhand state on the occasion of Navratri. Okay. And this region is basically, blessed with the scenic beauty because of the high diversity of high biodiversity, because of high greenery. Now, this temple will have the special significance also because this temple is one of the 108 Siddha Peeths in India. Okay, so it is one among 108 Siddha Peeths in India, which is located in the Champawat district of Uttarakhand state. All right. So it is the temple which will be connected to Tanakpur. All right. Next, the Competition Commission of India. So Competition Commission of India is basically a statutory body. Statutory body का मतलब होता है the body which is created out of the statute. Statute means here the act of parliament. That means any body which is created by the act of the parliament is known as statutory body. Is known as statutory body. Okay. So Competition Commission of India is also a statutory body because it is created by the statute or by the act of the parliament, which is known as the Competition Commission Act 2002. So why this Competition Commission of India is in the news? It is in the news because the Union Minister for the Finance and the Corporate Affairs recently inaugurated a regional office, right, of the Competition Commission of India in Chennai. So a regional office have been inaugurated by the Union Finance Minister. So the Competition Commission of India is basically a statutory body which is established under the provision of Competition Act 2002. This body is established in the year of 2003, right? It presently consists of the chairperson and 6 members which are appointed by the central government. Okay, the headquarters of Competition Commission of India is New Delhi, and previous agency which was there, right, which was replaced by the Competition Commission of India, that was the Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Commission, which was replaced by the Competition Commission of India in 2003. Okay, the main mandate of the Competition Commission of India is to check out any sort of a competitive, any sort of a anti-competitive practices, right? The abuse of the position by the enterprises, right, for their benefit, for their financial benefit, for their other benefit. So it prohibit anti-competitive agreements, right? That may happen, for example, if there are two, the two big, employers are there, or two big industries are there, if they, somehow collude with themselves, okay, and to make the products in such a way that it looks cheaper for the customers, right, to gain the, the advantage of the market. Once they gain the advantage of the market, right, they will basically, expand their reach in the market, and they will basically misuse the market, right, they will become the monopoly, or they will basically establish the monopoly in the market. So here the main task of the Competition Commission of India to restrict or to prohibit such agreements which may promote the monopolistic tendencies in the market, which may promote the dominating tendencies in the market. Simultaneously, it will also ensure that all players will have the equal playing field in the market, right? And in that process, the Competition Commission of India also checks out, right, the acquisition and the mergers, because these acquisition and the mergers, right, that may happen that if any sort of acquisition is being done by the big conglomerate, or the merger is going on, that may give the undue advantage to that particular enterprises, and that may also cause some of the anti-competitive practices. So to stop such practices, it will regulate the mergers and the acquisition of the different conglomerates, okay, which will have the adverse impact on the competition or the environment of competition. So obviously it will give the clearance by the Competition Commission of India in that regard. Okay, next, e-Dakhil portal. E-Dakhil portal, was it e-Dakhil portal? You understand the consumer's affair, okay? So you have the grievances as a consumer of different products, right? For example, if you use the different products, you may have the grievances also if the product do not meet with the certain defined standards, or if the products, have given certain other, the negative, impact on your health, or your, if they have been overcharged or something, other grievances may be there. Okay. For that grievances, you have to go and you have to file a complaint, right, in the consumer dispute resolution forum. Now what is happening is that you have to personally go and file the complaint, but now what is happening is that the e-filing facility have been initiated by the government of India. So now you don't have to move anywhere to the office, rather than you have to just open a portal that is called e-Dakhil portal. Okay, where you can basically address, address your grievances which is related to the consumer affairs. That means you can institute your query, you can file your complaint in the e-Dakhil portal. Okay, that will be operational now in the 15 states and the union territories. Obviously slowly it will be covered in the pan-India level also. So the Department of Consumer Affairs have now been proactive in the resolving of such grievances related to the customers. Okay, specifically the filing of, right, those complaints, right, on the internet basis or on the platform basis. All right. So here the e-filing will be the facility where the consumers will be able to file their complaints, right, on the portal, right, rather than, right, by physically moving to the office. So it is basically, launched by the National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, right, on the 7th September 2020. And Delhi was the first state to implement this program called e-Dakhil portal, right, on the 8th of September 2020 itself. All right. The main statute which provides the, the filing of the complaints, right, under basically the Consumer Dispute Resolution Forum, the Consumer Protection Act 2019, right, which provide the statutory backing of such filing of these complaints, which come into force on 20th July 2020, has the special provision of filing of, right, these complaints, right, in the consumer commissions, right. And simultaneously the Consumer Protection Act also provides the online filing of these, complaints in the portal also. And simultaneously you can also file the online payment of the fees which is related to the filing of that complaint. The web application or the portal, you can easily get it from the net. For example, if you just type the edakhil.nic.in, okay, it is a portal which is developed by the NIC, which is the Government of India's organization, National Informatics Center. Okay, so NIC has developed this web portal which is known as the edakhil.nic.in, where the consumer or the customer can file their complaint on the portal. Okay, so it is a digital portal, it is a digital software where the consumer can easily file their complaint. Okay, it will have the different features, right. For example, right, document download link, you can basically easily can download it by the department concerned, by you, right, as well as you will have the hearing link. You will have the filing of the written response by the opposition parties. For example, if you file certain complaints against a particular department or against a particular body, right, that will have, the e-filing facilities. They can also be able to file the response also on that platform. Okay, and then filing of rejoinder by the complainant, as well as the alerts, it will be sent to you by SMS or email also. So obviously that will be beneficial for the customers, for the consumers, for filing that, the consumer related grievances on the portal. So it is basically the e-Dakhil portal, which is basically, launched by the National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. So the main agenda of the, launching of this e-Dakhil platform is to simplify the e-filing process related to the consumer complaints, right, or consumer grievances. It will be operational in states and union territories, right, and 444 locations will be covered by this portal. So it will streamline the digital, the filing of the complaints, right, on the platform, as well as, right, it will also, speeden up the process of resolving and removing of those grievances on the portal itself. So we have it will have the integration of the common service centers, which are located specifically in the rural areas, or specifically in those areas where the rural people can file also their complaint. So the integration of these common service centers with the e-Dakhil portal will be an immense benefit for those customers who are basically residing in the rural areas. Obviously, you will have the most important advantage of, the creation of that type of environment where the customers can, feel free to approach the consumer dispute resolution mechanism, by which they can file their complaint freely, without fear, and without any, any sort of a hassle free, right, environment where they don't have to move, but they just have to open the portal and filing their complaints. Okay, so it is basically the Department of Consumer Affairs proactively following all the states and the UTs to launch this portal on their website. Okay. Next, the bond yield. What is the bond yield? Bond yield का मतलब होता है, it's a return, right? If I say a yield means it is something return. What will you get after it? That is called yield. So bond yield का मतलब होता है the return that you get it after you basically invest in the bond, okay, or in the bond market. The bond market may be related to the government security, right? So if you invest in the government security, or if you invest any government bond, right, what is the, the return that bond is providing you? What is the return the government security is providing to you, right? That is called bond yield. That is called bond yield. Okay, now the news which is related to the bond yield is that the yield related to the bonds, specifically the government securities or government bond. Now what is happening is that in India, the bond yield have been increasing, right, in the lines of the United States of America. So that sent a shock wave across the world. So the rising yield on the government securities on the lines of the United States of America has triggered a concern throughout the world. Okay, why it has caused the concern? Because except the government securities, the bond yield have not been increased. For example, there is, because of this downturn, because of this corona related pandemic, and because of this, the loosening of the economies, what is happening is that every other sector, right, there is specifically the negative impact is felt. For example, stock market, it is basically on the downward side. Even in the gold, right, the return on the gold is also downward side. But the the yield with respect to the government security has been rising, which is basically a cause of concern across the world. So now the bond yield basically deals with the return which is basically accrued by an investor who invest in the government securities, right? And that return is basically quantified in the form of bond yield, So the major factors which affect this yield, right, are various factors. For example, first of all, the monetary policies which is basically implemented by the Reserve Bank of India. Then the interest rates, this is most important. Okay, this is the most important. The bond yield basically is determined or is primarily dependent on the interest rate, which is basically announced by the Reserve Bank of India. Then fiscal position of the government. Okay, fiscal position means, is there any sort of the deficit in the basically in their account, or its borrowing program, how much it has been borrowed, what is the outstanding loan, and all sort of things. Then it also depends on the global markets, the global scenario, and economic conditions of a particular country, and also simultaneously the inflation. So the bond yield basically dependent on various factors, but the primary factor is, right, the rate of interest. We'll see the fall in the interest rate makes the bond prices rise. That means you say that if there is a rise or if there is a decline in the interest rates related to the bond prices will ultimately rise. Okay, and what will happen, because the lowering of the interest rate, that makes the bond basically cheaper, and that will have the more demand, and that is caused basically the rising of the bond prices. And ultimately what will happen, the bond yield falls down. So that means if you increase the interest rate, okay, that cause the bond prices to ultimately fall down. Okay, now bond prices ultimately to rise, and then bond yield ultimately to fall. Okay, If you rise the interest rate, what will happen? The reverse will happen. If you rise the interest rate, right, what will happen? The bond prices will ultimately fall down and the bond yield will ultimately rise. So that is the equation that is you must understand. So you can say that in the short term that the bond yield means the interest rate in the monetary system which have been fallen. So obviously if you have higher bond yield, that means the interest rate have been fallen, which means the return for the investors have been declined also. The yield on 10-year bond in India moved up in the recent time. For example, it was 5.76 percentage, right, in the previous year. Now it has been declined, right, it has been increased to 6.20%. So the yield on the 10-year bond have been increased from 5.76 percentage to 6.20 percentage. This is basically in the lines of the US. In the US also, the bond yield related to the government security have been rising, which is basically sending a shock to the stock markets, because in the stock markets the Sensex basically falling by 2,300 points in the last week. So in the nutshell, you can say that the bond yield is something which is related to, right, the return which is basically received by the investor while investing in the government security or in the government bond. Okay, the main relation is that it depends on the interest rate. If the interest rate is basically low, right, that will increase the prices of the bond, and if the prices of the bond is increased, obviously the bond yield will also be fall down. Or in the return, you can say that if there is a high interest rate, that causes the bond prices to fall down, and that basically increases the bond yield. So ultimately what is happening in India, the interest rate was high, the interest rate is high, and that causes the bond prices to ultimately falls down, and that leads to the ultimately yields related to the bond that is increased. So that is happening in India as well as in USA also. Then COVAX is the program. It is an international program. First of all, it is an international program which was started by the Vaccine Alliance, that is called Gavi, right? As well as the World Health Organization, as well as the Coalition for the Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, in partnership with UNICEF and vaccine manufacturers throughout the world and World Bank. So it is an international program which was started by these organizations, right? The main purpose of this COVAX program is to equitably distribute the vaccines which is related to the corona, right, throughout the world without any discrimination. The COVAX program is the equitably distribution of the vaccine throughout the world without any discrimination, with the help of the national as well as international players. So Ghana is a country in the Africa. The Ghana had become the first country in the world to receive the shipment of the corona vaccine under this COVAX program. All right. So you must understand that these countries per capita is very, very low. So here the aim ultimately is to ensure that equitable distribution, right, of this corona vaccine would be available globally. Okay. And for that, obviously, you need to procure the vaccines on the larger scale, and you need to have the largest supply chain management in the supplying of this vaccine. Okay, this COVAX program was basically aimed at to vaccinate roughly 20% of the population of the 92 advanced market commitment countries. Okay, so in the 92 advanced market commitment countries, which are falling specifically in the lower income countries, right, as well as in the middle income countries. So they are basically the lower and the middle income countries. So the ultimate aim of this COVAX program is to supply the vaccines to at least 20% of the population of these low and middle income nations equitably, right, because these nations are unable to pay, right, for the supplying of the vaccine. So ultimately the main purpose is to provide the vaccine to such people specifically in the advanced market commitment countries where the lower and middle income nations lies. Okay, now the countries where the gross national income, which is per capita less than US $4,000, right, for those countries they are eligible and they receive the corona vaccines under the COVAX program. as well as some other countries which are eligible under the World Bank International Development Association, right? So there are certain, the qualifications on which the countries will be receiving the doses of the corona vaccine based on certain predefined category or area. All right. Next is basically the Chermosquagog. What is the Chermosquagog? Basically, it is basically a program, or it is basically a house, right? It is basically a house where the interfaith people, the people from the Muslim community, the people from the Christian community, and the people from basically the Jewish community, all three will be worshipping together. So Chermos Quago is a place or a house where all communities, specifically Christians, Jews, and Muslims, would be worshipping, right, together in a single place. So you see, it is a house, right? It is a house which will ensure that the Christians, Jews, and Muslims, right, worship in a single place, right? Which is basically decided, constructed at the heart of Berlin. Berlin is basically a capital of Germany. So in Germany, specifically the Berlin, Chermosquago would be constructed. It is a sacred building which will be constructed for the people who profess Christianity, Jews, and the Muslim or Islam. Right? For those people, they can come and they can worship in a single place. It is a house of one. It is also known as house of one, or it is also known as colloquially, or which is also known as basically the Chermosquago, which will be, combined form of the church. So it is a short form. You can say that chur. Chur means it is a church, okay, which is the place of worship for the Christians. Then mosque. So it is basically the mosque. So it is basically this MOSQ. So that is mosque. Okay. And then synagogue, which is basically a worship place for the Jews. So it is basically, this is agog. This is basically synagogue. Okay. So it is basically a place of worship for the Jews. All three people, like Christians, which worship in the church, Islam or the Muslim people who worship in the mosque, and the Jewish people, all three will be coming together in the house of one, where they will be having the single place of worship, where they will be worshiping in this house of one. The foundation stone for this house of one will be laid on the 27th of May by the people of these faiths. That means all three faiths people will be there. Okay. And in that house of one, there will be a meeting space also at the center of the building. Okay. This meeting space would be open to all people, belongs to all other faiths. That means it will be a place for the secular urban society, where the people come discuss, right, the secular principles of all religions. The house of one is coming up on the site of the St. Peter's Church. That St. Peter's Church was basically destroyed during World War II. Okay. That was completely demolished by the government of East Germany in 1964. So at that place, that was the church. Now this house of one will be constructed. Okay. It is constructed in Germany. Okay. Next, the caracal. What is so caracal? That it is a medium-sized wild cat. Its name is caracal. So it is a wild cat which is found in the areas of Rajasthan and Gujarat. Okay. So caracal is found in the Rajasthan and the Gujarat. So now the National Board of Wildlife, right, and the Union Ministry of Environment and Forest have included the caracal in the critically endangered species. Critically endangered species means the population is very few. Their population is very few. They need immediate protection, right, from being illegal smuggling and from being killed. So they have been included in the critically endangered category that will provide them much needed protection and the support from all stakeholders. Okay. Now you must understand the caracal, which is a medium-sized wildcat. Now it is not in the grave danger, specifically in other habitats. Now in India, it is, or this caracal is basically in the grave, situation of extinction if that have not been protected probably the caracal may become extinct in India, right? So it has been decided by the Ministry of Environment and Forest along with the National Board of Wildlife to include the caracal into critical endangered species. Okay, the recovery program for the critically endangered species have now included the 22 wildlife species from being, protected from being gone to extinct. Okay, now apart from India, that is Gujarat and Rajasthan, the cat was also found in Africa, in the Middle East, in Central Asia, and the South Asia. Okay, now it is also flourished in the part of Asia, Africa, but in Asia it is declining. It is declining. So it is a wild cat. It is a wild cat which has some special features. For example, long head, it has short face, it has long canine teeth. Okay, it has distinctive ears. That means the ears are long and pointy. I will show you the picture. So ears are long and the pointy, and they have the tips of black hair right at their tips, also at the tips of the ear. So you will see that there is a tips of the black hair also. Okay, the iconic ears in which the, the specifically the caracal is known, right? The iconic ears basically comes from the Turkish name that is called Karakulak. Karakulak means the black ears because of this black hair which is found, right, at the tip of their ear. Specifically in India, it is also known as the Sia Ghosh. The Sia Ghosh in the Persian name, which also can be translated as a black ear, which is basically coming from the, the Dirgha Karn. Dirgha means the elongated ears or long ear, which is basically also a Sanskrit word. So you can see here the black, basically, ears or black, which is basically there on the long ears, and it is basically a wild cat which is now included in the critically endangered species by the National Board of Wildlife and the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Okay, next, the Saras Ajivika Mela. The Saras Ajivika Mela. What is Saras Ajivika Mela? The Saras Ajivika Mela is basically, is inaugurated by the Minister of Rural Development at Noida, Uttar Pradesh. So it will be inaugurated at Noida Haat. So here, it will have the participation of the women, specifically the self-help groups. The Saras Ajivika Mela, the women participate specifically in the self-help group. So it will be showcasing, right, the platform where they, their quality of the life, they can improve the family income also. So this Ajivika Mela 2021 is being organized from 26th of February to the 14th of March by the Ministry of Rural Development, specifically at the Haat in the Uttar Pradesh. Okay, so here more than 100 rural self-help groups will be participating, right, as well as a craft person from 27 states which will be participating in the Mela, and that will be showcasing their, their capability, their arts and their skill with related to the Ajivika. Okay. So it will be celebrated, or it will be inaugurated at the Noida Haat. Okay, so thank you very much. That's all for. We will meet again tomorrow for our next current affairs. Thank you very much for attending session. Thank you.